My girlfriend's jealousy ruined our Vegas trip, and I'm done with everyone. 3 weeks ago, I went to Las Vegas with my girlfriend Laura, her best friend Sarah, and Sarah's boyfriend. We're all college students who had just finished final exams, and we had been planning this trip for about 6 months. We faced problems before arriving, and by the time we got on the plane, it was nearly full. Sarah and her boyfriend took the last two seats together, while Laura and I had to sit separately. No one was willing to give up or change seats. I offered her a choice between two final seats, one for a little girl and her mom, or two for high school and college volleyball players. I was in the window seat next to a very talkative 5-year-old girl and her mother, who looked to be in her late 20s or early 30s. I kept the kid busy for about 3 hours during our 5 to 6 hour flight until she finally fell asleep. My older sister has a kid around that girl's age, so I'm familiar with it. After the little girl fell asleep, the mother started chatting, asking how I was so good with kids. Minor details, nothing intrusive or anything. After we got off the plane, Laura was really angry. She said I didn't seem upset at all about not sitting next to her, almost as if I was happy to be away from her. The flight is bad, and I would have preferred to sleep or sit next to her, but I won't dwell on it and make things worse. It was 6 a.m. Who really wants to play with a 5-year-old for 3 hours? Eventually, she got over it and apologized after Sarah talked to her about it. We arrive at the hotel on the Strip and check in. It turns out they booked a single penthouse room through a promo from Sarah's parents for the four of us. I had only met Sarah and her boyfriend a few times before this trip, so it wasn't terrible. Later, I learned from Sarah that Laura insisted on doing it this way, even though Sarah had originally planned for us to be in joint rooms. On the first day, we strolled along the Strip and saw many attractive girls passing by. It's Vegas. I noticed that after about 15 minutes of walking, Laura was staring at me instead of enjoying the sights like everyone else. She kept her gaze on my eyes as we walked. It wasn't about seeking attention. It was more about her curiosity regarding what or who I was looking at while we walked. I told her she was missing out and that she had nothing to worry about. I went to a big outlet mall, and every time a sales associate offered me coupons, she would almost lose it. I asked one of the girls about a product Laura was interested in, and then Laura came over and awkwardly took over the conversation. I saw something really embarrassing. I felt so bad for the associate that I apologized to her before we left. On the bus to the night shows, Sarah's boyfriend and I stood while they took the last two seats. In front of us was a couple who were clearly drunk. When the bus started moving, they both fell back, and we ended up catching them. Laura mentioned afterward that we didn't know them and should have just let them fall instead of trying to help. On the third day, Laura was feeling sick, so we didn't leave the hotel. I stayed with her all day. It wasn't a problem, but she didn't want me to go out for food, so I ended up using room service. She looked happy and relaxed in the hotel room, watching movies. The day before we left, we dined at a nightclub restaurant, and our server was a showgirl or call girl. I'm not sure what to call it, but she was really flirting with us a lot. When she saw how Laura was responding, she went ahead and did it even more. I attempted to minimize it, but the harm was already there. I mentally checked out that day. I get that no one likes to see their significant other flirted with, but it's that girl's job to try to get people to take her card. Laura's boyfriend got hit on more than I did, and Sarah just laughed about it, even joked with the showgirl. I planned to end the relationship as soon as we returned home. When we boarded the plane, she was smiling and excited, sharing how much fun she had in Vegas. After we got home and were alone, I mentioned the trip. She apologized and said she wasn't feeling like herself. I pressed her for more details, and she finally opened up about a bad relationship where she was cheated on twice. The guy was disrespectful and tried to control her. It felt like she was trying to make me feel guilty for leaving, and it was somewhat effective. However, I couldn't shake off thoughts about the trip. She shifted much of the blame to a past relationship and her mood swings, even though she initially claimed she hadn't done anything wrong. I'm not perfect, and I tend to end relationships quickly. Now I'm questioning if I'm leaving too soon again or if this time it's actually the right choice. I'm not seeking perfection. Everyone has their flaws over time. I've come to this realization, but I've never been the type to try to change someone else. My older sister says it's my biggest flaw. You keep searching for everything to be perfect, but you never stick around long enough to notice if some parts are missing. That's pretty much what she said. I generally rely on my sister's judgment, but I think she might be mistaken this time. Laura has never behaved this way. This was our first real outing. We usually hang out with her friends and also spend time together on campus. It's been 3 weeks, and she's almost back to her normal self. We have 2 more trips lined up, one with Sarah and her boyfriend, along with Laura's family, and another with a larger group of people in about a month for the summer. I can't go through another Vegas situation. Am I rushing to leave? Should I stay and try to work things out with her? What do you think from the outside? What usually happens in these situations? I spoke to her and was very clear and honest about everything. I made sure the Vegas trip happened, even though she tried to brush it off and make it go away. She said she would try to change, but she wasn't sure if she could or if this was just who she was. She recognized her mistakes, and even her close friend pointed out that her actions were not okay. Yet she appeared indifferent about the possibility of change. Trust issues are hard to deal with, but she doesn't seem motivated at all. When I told her I needed change, or I might have to reconsider our relationship, she just sat there with a blank expression, almost as if she was saying, "I should go." I'm not sure if she's trying to guilt me into feeling sorry for her, if she believes I won't really leave, or if her pride is stopping her from realizing that she needs to change to keep the people around her. Leaving right after 2 years together, especially when this is the first issue, feels hasty if the relationship is generally strong. I don't mean to downplay our relationship, but for me, spending hours in each other's dorms and time around campus is one thing, but interacting outside of that is really important to me. In the 2 years we've been together, it seems like she always finds reasons to keep things the way they are. I stay active. I play sports for my college, but outside of that, she never wanted to do anything. She was really nervous about the trip, so much so that we almost decided not to go with them. She came up with every reason possible for us to just relax another summer instead of being productive. I might have been too oblivious or trusting to notice the subtle warning signs that my relationship has always been this way. Here's an update. I talked to Laura's best friend, Sarah, to ask her about Laura. I was curious if there was anything about Laura's past relationships or history that she might not share with me due to worry, embarrassment, or trauma, which could help explain her behavior. I told her that after what happened in Vegas, I was close to ending the relationship. Her behavior really bothered me, and I just couldn't handle being with her anymore. I quickly told myself there wasn't anything, but I felt skeptical. She seemed to be hiding something. Sarah asked me to give her one more chance, so she made some last-minute plans for about 8 of us to go to the beach last weekend. Laura clearly didn't want to go, and I didn't push her to go. Sarah and some other girls persuaded her to join them, saying it would be fun to go as a large group. This beach trip turned out just like I thought it would. She insisted that I keep my shirt on the whole time we were there, even though everyone else, including her, was in bathing suits. After I took off my shirt, she kept asking me every hour if I was ready to put it back on to avoid getting sunburned. As we walked the boardwalk, every time we passed a group of girls, she would glance at me to check if I was looking at them. If I was, she would scold me or make me feel guilty. If I wasn't paying attention, she'd get jealous and point out that those girls were staring at me. It was really embarrassing and just so obvious. One day, a beach volleyball rolls over to our towel. A girl comes to retrieve it, and I pass it to her. She says, "Thanks you," and glances back at me as she runs off to her friends. The volleyball landed near us a couple of times, and Laura thought the group of 10 was doing it on purpose, sending the same girl to get it so she could see me better. I was already thinking about ending our relationship because of some things, but what really pushed me over the edge was when I was swimming. I was pretty far out by the restriction buoy and saw a brother and sister, maybe around 12 or 13, clearly struggling. They probably went too far and ended up exhausted. They weren't good swimmers, and I saw them drifting away. I swam over and asked if they needed help getting back to shore. I swim and bring them both back to shore until they reach the bottom. Their gratitude was clear, and I overheard the sister mention that their parents had warned them not to venture that far. Laura wanted to know what I was doing with those kids outside. I mentioned I was assisting them back to shore, and she replied, "Isn't that what lifeguards do?" Two couples nearby seemed shocked, but I could only shake my head. I ended things with her that night and expressed my hope that she would find the support she needed to feel better about herself. She was very emotional, crying and pleading, saying she would change if I stayed. She told me she needed my help and that it would be all my fault for how she turned out. I chose to walk away before I could say something mean because I was getting upset, and that's when she suddenly said she was pregnant. I glance at her, roll my eyes, and walk away. I haven't had sex with her since her last period on purpose. She must have figured it out because she came out of the hotel room and shouted down the hall for me not to leave. I went to Sarah's hotel room to let her and her boyfriend know that I was leaving. I had my reasons for driving myself. Sarah says sorry and tells me that Laura wasn't in an abusive relationship before I came along. Laura accused her ex-boyfriend of emotionally cheating when he went for coffee with a coworker who had also been his childhood friend for 15 years. I definitely avoided a bad situation. I've removed both of their numbers and won't be reaching out to them again.